you think of all this Pentagon UFO?
President Barack Obama talks UFOs.
Returning to the Capitol and revisiting the topic of UFOs.
Stephen Hawking believed with more than 100 billion stars in our galaxy, the odds are pretty good that aliens exist.
From astronauts and NASA workers to ex-Pentagon officials and politicians, they all have some grueling secrets to spill. Trust me.
These 3 videos, released by the Department of Defense, have changed the way many people see what we can't explain.
You're not ready to hear the news from the inside. Ready to become a believer? Let's get started.
The moment you mention UFO, immediately what comes to mind are little green men, tinfoil hats. That's not at all what we're dealing with.
Number 1, Buzz Aldrin. Buzz Aldrin, the second person to walk on the moon, is not a nobody. You might not have heard about him in a while, but I have something that will bring him back to the light. Aldrin claims that he saw a glinting object on one of his flights in space, which he called a UFO. It was moving with the blazing speed of the stars, crossing over 60 miles per hour. But what's really shocking is the thing he says next. The man insists that the strange object was following him. In another interview, the astronaut claims he saw a monolith standing tall on one of the moons of Mars. Aldrin appeared as if he was choosing his words very carefully. He said nothing directly about aliens, but he hinted enough to send the vigilant into a state of frenzy. Here's why I say this. Many people on the NASA crew from the time of Apollo 11 talk about a strange call.
We should go boldly where man has not gone before. Fly by the comets, visit asteroids, visit the moon of Mars.
The one that Armstrong made to the base. He said how aliens were already parked there on the moon when they landed, watching them. Did the duo make the flight to the moon to contact with the aliens? Is there an alien base on one of the moons of Mars? I guess we can only ponder. Number 2, British astronaut spills the beans. For people who think only Americans talk about aliens, get ready to hear this. Aliens have become global. Meet the first British astronaut to walk in space, Tim Peake. The man has talked in multiple interviews about how he believes there is life outside of Earth. He goes on to insist that the space is big and wide, growing to billions of light years.
Outside of you
ship.
Feel incredibly exposed. I mean, the danger is palpable out there because as you're going into vacuum, you're in the airlock, you're crammed in there with all the equipment and your crewmate.
There is bound to be life on at least 5,000. If that's shocking, get a load of this. He claims that the James Webb Telescope has already found one planet where there may be intelligent life. The authorities want to confirm the results before they go around claiming one thing or another, but he is absolutely confident that there is a planet with some pretty serious and strong biological signal. Do you think the aliens have finally made contact with the humans? Number 3. UFOs. Teasing human. Many UFO hunters are called out for believing in wild hoaxes. What about a renowned astronaut who claims he saw an alien spacecraft? Gordon Cooper was one of the 7 people from NASA's Mercury program. The man had a big career, but also many interesting secrets to tell the public. In 1951, he saw something so bizarre that even his team of pilots couldn't explain. A few miles away from the formation, the pilot saw hundreds of UFOs flying high in the sky but close to each other. It wasn't just a short experience either. The pilot saw this strange formation of the UFOs for a day and a half.
To put that succinctly, we did not have the spacecraft systems hermetically sealed, as we later did.
6 years later, Cooper stumbled upon another UFO. This time, he wasn't miles away from the encounter. He was busy supervising a flight when his military camera crew recorded a startling sight. A saucer-shaped object landed a mere few feet away from them. When the crew got near the saucer, it picked up speed and took off. What's shocking is that both the encounters were reported to the airbase, but all they got was silence from the other end. Can you imagine that authorities hold real-life footage of a UFO landing on its 3 landing gears? Number 4. Zero doubt of non-human intelligence. Colonel Carl Nell worked as a senior military officer in the government. Carrying many other ranks, he had access to some pretty confidential information. The man gave a very straight-up answer when he was asked about the existence of non-human intelligent life. He couldn't have been more clear while saying yes. Not only that, he went on to say that there have been countless meetings with the aliens for decades, and the government knows all about it.
Access to information, like Paul Hellyer, who was the defense chief for Canada, has come out and said the same thing. We look at...
When he was asked for proof, he only had to say this. There have been so many high-ranking officials in the government coming forward with the same information almost every other year. So, What's stopping people to believe? Number 5. The famous whistleblower. Meet David Grusch, the man who leaked the secrets of the US government. This guy worked as a high-ranking military intelligence officer for 14 years, and boy, did he have a lot to say. Grusch claimed that he was officially informed about a special program that the US government had been running for decades. A mission to retrieve UFOs and reverse engineer them to see how they worked.
There's not a good way for the Intelligence Community Inspector General to provide that to other committees.
He says that there were a lot of reported injuries during this mission, but the government refused to back off. I bet they still don't know how a UFO works. It is not just UFOs that the government is holding in a secret facility, there's more. In an interview, Grusch went on to say that the authorities have hundreds of alien remains locked up in a building. They have all these experts and Congress members visit the facility to assess the remains that are visibly different from human. Do you think he's lying? Don't forget, he is pretty high up in the government and chose to speak in a public hearing. Number 6. The disturbance of the red light. For 4 decades, Linda Moulton has interviewed many military officials to expose the government's involvement with extraterrestrial being. One of her interviews stands out from the crowd, the one with Robert Salas. Salas worked as a lieutenant with the US government. He tells an interesting story from the time he was stationed at the Malmstrom Air Force Base. One evening, almost everyone there saw a saucer-shaped flying object hovering over the Minuteman missile system.
In the next step, the men replace the re-entry system over the new GNC. Then the fasteners are replaced in the RS collar.
It was glowing red. The second the UFO flew over the missile system, chaos erupted inside the facility. Lights started blinking, horns were blaring, and the missiles went from operational to no-go. The frenzy went on for as long as the giant ball of light stood over the system. The saucer then flew away, leaving a giant ring of black smoke behind. What do you make of this story? Number 7. The renowned pilot. John Lear is known as the godfather of conspiracy, but people forget that he was a famous pilot and had some great connections with both the military and the government. He made many claims of UFOs, secret bases of the government, alien meetings, and even alien abduction. But there's one story that is incredibly strange. Lear recalled talking to the pilot of a Japanese airline. The pilot had crossed the border of the United States when he saw something pretty terrifying. Flying a few feet away was a UFO twice the size of an aircraft carrier.
3 Wednesday nights in a row, they watched a glowing disc rise above the mountains over Papoose Dry Lake.
The pilot did a complete 360-degree right turn and even descended 5,000 feet below, but the UFO refused to leave his trail. No matter what the pilot did to try and flee the UFO, that thing continued to follow him around for 40 minutes. Then just like that, it vanished, and nobody could figure out the origin of the mysterious object. Number 8. A helping alien. One night in the year 1958, a group of government officials was busy investigating a crash. Turned out it was a UFO that had crashed near the mountain. Standing close to the UFOs were 4 extraterrestrial beings. The UFO and the beings were all transported back to the site, where Area 51 now stands tall. That's the story narrated by Bill Uhouse, a former military officer from the US government.
They couldn't get it across the dam because of the road. It had to be barged across the Colorado River at the time.
He claimed that his team was tasked with the idea of reverse engineering the UFO, but he had yet to tell the most gripping part of the story. Apparently during that time, he met with an alien that the officials called Drod. He spoke our language just as coherently as humans do, but it wasn't a one-time experience. The alien spent days locked up in an underground lab at the facility. He would often come out to advise humans on how to better reverse engineer the UFO. No wonder Area 51 became so famous. Do you believe the story of the veteran? Number 9. Claims of alien technology. Bob Lazar was a man who worked in Area 51. His story is special because it starts off in secrecy. The man did not come forward directly when he started spilling secrets. Instead, he used a fake name. But when his claims started gaining attention, he revealed his identity. Lazar claimed that he was part of a team in the facility where they worked on reverse engineering UFOs. He was directly involved with 9 spacecrafts, and one of them was shaped like a saucer.
He questioned Lazar about the central allegations.
He later proved his claims by describing how the UFO was designed. That's not all. In another interview, Lazar told the public how he had heard the authorities stumbling upon ancient alien technology. It was during an archaeological excavation that was carefully swept under the rug. Here's where it gets interesting. Lazar gave the interview while taking a lie detector test. He passed while narrating his story about the alien. Number 10. Retired astronaut speaks out. Stoy. Musgrave is a former astronaut. He believes that there are many extraterrestrial beings out there that are much more intelligent than us. These beings might just be capable of interstellar travel. At least, that's what the astronaut believed. But his story isn't just about wild claims. Twice he saw UFOs in his time in the space. Once, it was a wide object shaped like a rubber hose. The object was a few miles away from him, but it had distinctive internal motion. It stayed there for a few moments before fleeing away. Number 11. The Tic Tac Story. David Freevor is a retired Navy commander who had an interesting experience to share with the public. The man claims that he was flying into the air with his wingman when they stumbled upon something bizarre. When they were nearly 80,000 feet into the air, the pilots noticed a stream of white water. It was a perfectly clear day. It couldn't possibly have been clouds or rain. Then they noticed something even more strange. A few feet above the surface of the water, a tic-tac-shaped object was flying back and forth like a ping pong. Freevor couldn't believe his eyes.
And so these objects are of very intense interest because it means that a new technology is being harnessed by some unknown party.
He told his fella to stay put and descended a few thousand feet below to check out the object. Just as he got near, the UFO vanished. Along with the UFO, white water disappeared too. The pilots claimed that the UFO fled at a staggering speed of 3,600 miles per hour. It was both terrifying and startling. Number 12. Alien implants and UFO retrievals. Luis Elizondo is no stranger. He worked at the Pentagon and is not scared to tell what has been going on behind the curtain. The man claims that the Roswell incident was covered up by the government. What happened that day was that 2 UFOs crashed. One flew away while the other was taken by the US authorities. Elizondo swears that they weren't made by humans. Something that is traveling at blazing speeds of 3,000 miles per hour cannot possibly be made by humans. But bringing the UFOs wasn't the best decision for the workers of Area 51. Elizondo claims that there have been countless military officers who have been injured and disabled after being in contact with the UFOs. But he didn't stop there. He talked about something disturbing and sinister, alien abductions and implants. The man recalls having met multiple people who had weird implants in their body. They had no idea when these implants were put inside their bodies, but they used to burn. When the doctors took them out, the implant was moving. Even the best of experts couldn't figure out what they were. Do you think he is telling the truth? Number 13. Regular UFO encounters. UFOs are not a fiction story from the past. The UFO encounter of a pilot will tell you that much. In the year 2014, Ryan Graves stumbled across a strange flying object. It appeared dark gray, or black cube inside a sphere. The spacecraft was nearly 15 feet in diameter.
They want to hear what happened when a fleet of UFOs appeared to stalk his carrier strike.
And unlike any other aircraft that you'll see in the modern world. But here's where it got extremely shocking. The weather was horrid. Winds were blowing like crazy. But the spacecraft remained solid as a rock, barely moving. The pilot reported the incident to the authorities, but did not get any response from them. Number 14. Did America's ex-president meet aliens? Dwight D. Eisenhower was the 34th president of the United States. But there's one thing about him that remains a baffling mystery even today. One evening, something troubling about America's president was announced. The media reported that he died of a heart attack, but only after a few minutes the statement was retracted. News leaked that the president has gone missing, but the very next morning he was spotted visiting the church. So what happened that night? Apparently, Eisenhower took an unscheduled flight to Edwards Air Base, a place notorious for alien conspiracy. There, he met with 2 aliens with whom he communicated telepathically.
About extraterrestrial spacecraft. Washington National Airport, Washington, D.C., July 19th.
There were many witnesses of the meeting, but Eisenhower didn't agree to their demands. Only a year after he became the president, Eisenhower had another meeting with aliens. This time, it was the Greys, and they asked to abduct humans and cattle. Eisenhower agreed only if the humans were sent back to Earth safely. If you think about it, that's when the alien abduction stories started getting famous. Could it be a hoax? Here's what's confusing. The president's spokesperson claimed that the president went to the dentist on the night he supposedly met with aliens. Was it that big of an emergency to go to a dentist at night? Couldn't he have waited till the next morning? What do you think? Number 15. The Black Pyramid. There have been many controversial talks about a strange site in Alaska, the Black Pyramid. Many military officials have come out to talk about this dark underground pyramid that's bigger than the Great Pyramid. It was kept as a huge secret, even more than the Manhattan Atomic Bomb Project. For decades, nobody could figure out if the pyramid was real. Some called it a secret government base, while others claimed that it was a power generation. But there have been some reports connecting to the pyramid. One story talks about a man whose father was a pilot and had flown to the underground pyramid. But there's more. Even locals saw something strange going on near Alaska. One woman reports a night when the sky was clear and there were faint aurora lights in the sky. Everything was just fine, but then suddenly something weird happened. The lights turned massive and kept changing colors. From red to blue to green. It was unlike any other thing the woman had seen before, and she has seen her fair share of military tests and northern lights. This bizarre lighting was nothing of that sort. Do you think the government figured out how the pyramids of Giza worked and built their own base? Is the Black Pyramid just another Area 51? Let us know in the comments below. Number 16, hints from Canadian official. Believe it or not, Canada has had its fair share of UFO encounters too. This is Joy Malbon, a former Pentagon officer. He claimed that he has had multiple reports of his team of pilots experiencing something wild. They often saw a bunch of odd-shaped aircraft moving at hypersonic speeds and turning at impossible angles. The man believes that UFOs are real, and they beat the odds of science. These UFOs are out there, and they are flying without wings. Is there any other explanation for this high-end technology? He has his ears open for those theories. Do you have any? Number 17, dodging the bullet. Forget politicians and Pentagon officers. There are CIA officers who know a bit about aliens too. This is an ex-CIA officer, Mike Baker, who claims that he believes aliens are indeed real, but he doesn't think that the government is hiding some big secret. Experts made one interesting observation though. Whenever the questions about aliens are asked, the man gets all uncomfortable and refuses to answer straight. He is out there dodging questions like an alien spacecraft. Don't you agree? Number 18, the Mexican pilot. In 1975, a horrific incident shook the entire country of Mexico. An aircraft had just dropped off the passengers and was on its way back to Mexico City. Carlos de los Santos was 10,000 feet into the air when something strange happened. On the left wing of the plane, a bizarre object was sitting. He had no time to even register that because another vehicle had propped itself on the right wing. The pilot was busy digesting all of this when a third vehicle came flying from the front and bumped into the bottom of the airplane. The pilot thought the UFO was gone, but he couldn't have been more wrong. The UFO at the bottom was propelling the airplane hundreds of feet into the air. Santos called the airbase demanding Mayday, but the UFOs had other plans.
That Mexican air traffic control tracked these objects also, and this came out to support him.
Just as the strangest troop reached the mountainous area, the vehicles dislodged from the airplane and flew into a mountain nearby. Santos had only a second to be relieved because the landing gear wasn't working any. The man got creative and used a screwdriver. He managed to stick the landing, but the trauma of the incident was with him for decades. Apparently, the government saw the strange objects on the radar too. The pilot wasn't lying. Number 19, hints from Trump. Donald Trump, the ex-president of the United States, had something shocking to say in an interview. When he was asked about UFOs and the Roswell incident, Trump called the place interesting. He went on to say that he wasn't at liberty to say anything, and it was all classified. In another interview, he claims that he has heard pilots having strange experiences. Although he is not a believer, he claims that anything is possible. While he didn't say anything out in the open, he didn't deny it either. Number 20. Obama comes forward. President Obama was probably one of the most liked presidents. Even he couldn't help but acknowledge the questions of UFOs and alien. The man claimed that there are indeed flying objects in the sky that numerous people have reported. Not just once, but for decades this show has been going on. Nobody has been able to crack how these objects work or how they are sprinting away at impossible speeds. He believes that these objects exist, but there is no answer to the mystery yet. If he was that much clear about UFOs, I wonder what he has to say about aliens. Number 21, a traumatizing encounter. This is Kevin Day, a pilot in the US Navy. Wait till you hear what he has to say. The man claims that they saw an unidentified object moving back and forth on the radar. It moved in such a way that it defied the laws of physics. They went to investigate and were shocked to find a giant spacecraft, about 40 feet long, shaped like a long cylinder. The team got close, but the spacecraft had other plans.
And there's definitely concerns for safety of flight.
But that's not the only thing that disturbed Kevin Day. After the incident, Kevin began to have nightmares.
One moment it was there, the next, it had descended thousands of feet near the surface of the water. Then, it vanished, leaving the crew startled. But wait, there's more. Only a few days later, a bunch of men came in black suits to the base and took all the data of the UFO with them. Number 22, ex-astronaut makes wild claims. This is Edgar Mitchell, the man who worked in NASA and did many big things for the space program. He confided in the media about how he firmly believes in alien, but there's something that he said that sent shockwaves across the news. Mitchell claims that humans are under constant surveillance by the alien. In fact, they were the ones who put an end to the Soviet war because they wanted peace on Earth. What do you make of that? Number 23, the strange formation. In the Apollo 17 moon mission, Ron Evans was an astronaut on that flight. His call was going live to the public, but then something happened that made NASA cut the public feed. While on the mission, Evans reported that he was not alone up there. He went on to say that an object was flying in formation with him. The strange object was 40 feet long and shaped like a cigar. It stayed with the rocket for nearly 5 orbits around the moon before finally vanishing. The whole crew at the mission control was told to remain quiet about this incident. NASA silenced them, but one brave member came out to spill the beans. Number 24, the AlienLike Creature. This is Leland Melvin, a former NFL player and an astronaut. He might have been famous for both of his careers, but he shared something strange recently that got all the heads turning. Apparently, when he took off in Atlantis, he stumbled upon a bizarre specimen. He describes it as an alien-like creature.
The 3 liquid fuel main engines now throttling back to 72% of rated performance, going into the bucket, reducing the stress on the shuttle as it breaks through the sound barrier.
That is translucent, organic, and curved. The weird creature was sitting at the bay of the spacecraft, casually hanging out. The headquarters called it a piece of ice and asked the astronaut to move on, fake or real. Number 25, story by the Oscar-winning actress. Shirley MacLaine was an actress, but she had some pretty good connections with the government. For a small amount of time, she even campaigned for the presidential election. But here's what she was willing to tell about Alien. MacLaine claimed that she has had multiple talks with astronauts who have had weird experiences in the sky. Almost all of them have seen UFOs. But one thing she said in the interview made headlines. The actress claimed that there are many countries that have had alien visitors. Brazil, France, China, and even Argentina have investigated the many extraterrestrial visits and claim that they are real. This is quite astounding if you think about it, because it means aliens are very much interested in humans. That's all, folks. What do you have to say about aliens now? Do you think these high-ranking officials are lying, or there's some other explanation for these encounters? Have you become less of a cynic? Let us know in the comments below. But before you go, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.